This village isn't on any map. Locals whisper of a festival with no moon, and a ritual never meant to be witnessed. I first heard about Blackbriar from an old, yellowed notebook tucked away in my grandfather's attic. Pages upon pages described a village frozen in time, hidden among dense forests and mist-covered valleys, untouched by the world for generations. A single line, hastily scribbled in faded ink, had captured my curiosity. Every 20 years, the village gathers beneath a starless sky, performing rites that no outsider has ever witnessed. Those who try to see disappear. Curiosity had always been my downfall, but as a filmmaker chasing the echoes of forgotten folklore, I couldn't resist. The promise of uncovering a secret so dark, so forbidden, was irresistible. It took weeks just to find someone willing to speak about Blackbriar. A half-blind old woman named Agnes from the neighboring village warned me through cracked lips. "You won't find it marked. Maps refuse to remember it. Cameras won't capture it. Go searching and you'll vanish too." Yet here I was, standing at the village boundary, filming equipment strapped to my back, staring at Blackbriar's ancient stone gateway emerging from the swirling fog. Vines twisted through cracked stones as if trying to pull the structure into the earth itself. Beyond, thatched roofs peeked out like wary eyes from the gloom, and I could feel the gaze of something unseen watching my every move. A chilling breeze whispered through the trees, carrying murmurs of distant voices. Voices that stopped abruptly as my boot crossed the threshold. Stepping inside felt like entering another world. There were no streetlights, no cars, no hum of technology. The villagers emerged from the shadows slowly, eyes sunken yet watchful, faces carved by fear and suspicion. Not one smiled or greeted me. They simply stared, wary of an outsider, silent guardians of a secret they protected for generations. As I moved deeper into the village, I began noticing strange symbols scratched into doorways and carved crudely into trees. Symbols that seemed older than language itself, yet somehow familiar in the darkest corners of my memory. One building stood out. A derelict chapel, its spire shattered, wooden doors rotting on rusted hinges. Drawn by some unexplainable urge, I approached and paused. Someone had scratched a fresh warning onto the stone wall, letters ragged and frantic. "The moonless night approaches. Turn back while you still can." A chill twisted up my spine. Whatever dark secrets Blackbriar held, I knew they lay waiting behind that warning. But my camera was ready, and I was determined to capture the truth. Little did I know that my desire to uncover the secrets of the Moonless Festival had already awakened something ancient, something hungry, and I had unknowingly stepped right into its path. They warned me not to film, but warnings only made me want to capture the truth even more. Nightfall came swiftly in Blackbriar, as if darkness itself was impatient to swallow the village whole. Candles flickered weakly through grimy windows, casting wavering shadows that danced like silent specters on the dirt roads. Despite my presence, the villagers refused to speak. Eyes lowered hastily when I approached, doors slammed shut at my passing, and the tension thickened with every step I took deeper into the village's labyrinthine alleys. I felt their fearful gazes piercing through curtains and cracks in old walls, silent watchers of an outsider who disturbed something sacred. Frustrated yet driven by relentless curiosity, I decided to press further. Surely someone could explain what made this village so secretive, so frightened of being seen. Finally, beneath the flickering glow of a solitary lantern, I spotted an elderly man sitting alone on a weathered wooden bench, hunched forward, his face obscured by shadow. Approaching carefully, I noticed his gnarled hands trembling slightly, as though burdened by the weight of memories he wished he could forget. "Excuse me?" I began softly. "Can you tell me about the festival? What happens during the moonless night?" He lifted his head slowly, cloudy eyes regarding me with sadness, and perhaps pity. A moment of silence passed, heavy with an unspoken warning, before he finally rasped out in a voice barely above a whisper, "No cameras, no outsiders. The festival feeds, and it never returns what it takes." The words hung in the air, chilling me to the bone. "Feeds," I echoed, my voice wavering slightly. Feeds on what? His wrinkled lips curled into a grim, humorless smile. On the curious. On those foolish enough to watch what was never meant to be seen. He leaned forward, gripping my wrist with surprising strength. Leave now. Forget this place. Or the village will consume you, too. Shaken, I pulled my arm free and stumbled away, his warnings echoing like ghostly whispers in my mind. Yet his words had only intensified my resolve. I needed answers, and I needed proof. Determined to uncover the truth, I moved stealthily through shadowed pathways, capturing shaky footage of the strange symbols etched into every doorway, each carving jagged and frantic as though made in haste or fear. These symbols seemed to twist in the candlelight, whispering of unspeakable horrors in a forgotten tongue. Then, almost hidden behind a crumbling stone wall near the outskirts, I found a small altar. My heart quickened at the disturbing sight. Dark stains covering its surface, candle stubs burnt to puddles of wax, and bones, small and delicate, yet unmistakably human, arranged carefully around another symbol, larger and more complex, carved deep into the stone. My stomach churned, but still I filmed, my hands trembling. Suddenly, the candles around the altar flared violently, as if angry at my intrusion. I stumbled backward, heart pounding, feeling the unnatural silence of the village press down upon me. A chill crawled over my skin. The symbols seemed alive, mocking me, warning me. I knew then I had already crossed a line. No cameras, no outsiders. But it was far too late for me to turn back now. I watched them carve masks that looked eerily like faces I once knew. Faces of people who had gone missing. The village grew more unsettling with each passing hour. Time had slipped away unnoticed. Daylight faded quickly into an oppressive twilight, and Blackbriar transformed under the veil of impending darkness. Villagers emerged quietly from their homes, their movements synchronized yet mechanical, as though guided by invisible threads of tradition older than memory. Hidden behind a crumbling stone wall, my camera carefully concealed, I watched their preparations unfold. Under flickering torchlight, villagers began to gather in silent circles. They wore dark, tattered robes that swept along the dirt, fabric rustling like dead leaves in the wind. Candles burned in uneven rows, casting ghostly shadows on the trees, turning each branch and leaf into grasping fingers reaching desperately towards the blackening sky. What drew my attention most was their work on the masks. Each villager painstakingly carving expressions from pale, smooth wood, carefully etching emotion into featureless faces. My blood ran cold as I slowly recognized familiar details emerging from the wood. A scar above the eyebrow, a gentle curve of lips, eyes frozen in terror. These were faces I'd seen before. Faces of people who had vanished, reported missing weeks, months, even years ago. How could these isolated villagers know their likenesses so intimately? Had they known these victims? Had they somehow chosen them? My heart thundered as I raised the camera, struggling to keep steady hands. As I filmed, the villagers' chanting began softly, rising steadily into a mournful, hypnotic drone, an ancient language vibrating through the night air. Each syllable seemed to seep through my skin, stirring primal dread deep within me. Then, abruptly, all chanting ceased. An unnatural silence descended upon the village, heavier than the darkness itself. Breath held tight. I felt the hairs on my neck stand sharply, as though touched by an unseen hand. Movement flickered at the edge of my vision. Shadows shifting, twisting, breaking free from their sources. My pulse quickened in panic, sweat trickling down my spine as whispers emerged from the emptiness. Their words unclear but undeniably malicious. "They watch you," something murmured, close enough to brush against my ear. I spun around, but found only darkness waiting. My breath shallow, I turned back to the village. Now the villagers were placing offerings on stone altars, baskets filled with fruits, bowls of dark liquid. Suddenly, a hooded figure turned slowly toward my hiding place, a carved mask held loosely in their hands. I felt their unseen eyes pierce the darkness, staring directly into mine as though aware of every secret I tried to hide. Panicked, I ducked lower, heart hammering painfully. When I finally risked another glance, the figure had vanished into the dark. But the mask lay abandoned on the ground, its hollow eyes now fixed directly toward me, smiling mockingly. And it was then I realized, the villagers weren't the only ones preparing for this moonless night. The festival knew I was here, and it had chosen me. The camera flickered as darkness devoured the flames. Something ancient had awakened, and I had captured it on film. The oppressive silence following the masked villager's departure gripped me tightly, refusing to release its hold. My heartbeat echoed painfully loud in my ears, a relentless reminder of the danger I'd already invited upon myself. As the last pale glow of twilight faded, absolute darkness swallowed the village whole. Above me, not a single star dared to shine, and the moon itself seemed to have fled from the horrors yet to unfold. The night was unnatural, thick, heavy, suffocating, as though the sky had deliberately turned its back on Blackbriar. In the eerie gloom, villagers began moving silently toward the heart of the forest. Compelled by curiosity and dread alike, I trailed behind cautiously, camera trembling in my grip. Each step deeper into the woods heightened my fear, yet turning back felt impossible. I was drawn, irresistibly, toward whatever terrible truth lay hidden beneath the blackness. Soon, a clearing emerged before me. An ancient stone circle, illuminated by torches burning an unnatural red, casting macabre, dancing shadows across the twisted faces carved into the villagers' masks. My pulse quickened painfully. Breath shallow, I crouched low, raising my camera, determined to capture the truth. With slow, synchronized movements, the villagers formed a circle around the stone altar. Their masked faces stared blankly upward as they began a slow, rhythmic dance, their feet shuffling in hypnotic patterns through the dirt. The chanting resumed, low, guttural, hauntingly beautiful, and rose steadily until it filled the clearing, vibrating through the ground itself. Suddenly, an icy wind howled through the trees, extinguishing several torches. Shadows lurched violently, growing longer and darker, as though stretching toward the altar itself. My heart leaped into my throat. Swallowing fear, I pressed closer, camera still rolling, capturing every chilling detail. But then, without warning, the camera flickered. Static danced violently across the screen, crackling angrily, the lens struggling to record something it wasn't meant to see. "Oh God, no," I muttered, frantically trying to adjust the camera, desperate not to lose the footage. But my panic only intensified as the darkness around me began shifting unnaturally, alive with malevolent intent. Flames around the altar twisted grotesquely, bending toward something unseen, something vast and terrible emerging slowly from the shadows. The villagers' chanting surged to a frenzied pitch, masks tilted back, revealing terrified eyes gleaming beneath, as though begging mercy from the encroaching horror. A primal force, ancient, dark, unspeakably powerful, rose from within the circle. I felt its presence, heavy and suffocating, pressing against my chest, robbing me of breath. "It knows?" I gasped, eyes widening in terror. "It knows I'm here." With an ear-splitting crack, every flame was extinguished at once. Darkness surged forward like a living tide, swallowing everything in its path. Screams erupted from within the stone circle, cries of villagers torn from sight, vanishing into the void. The camera flickered violently once more, screen flashing with images too horrific to comprehend. Something ancient had awakened, and I had captured it on film. And now, with sickening clarity, I understood. There would be no escape. The forbidden ritual had claimed me, and the darkness demanded a price. I ran through the woods, but the trees shifted to trap me. The darkness was alive, and it hungered for my fear. "Dear God, what have I done?" The words burst from my throat in ragged gasps as madness erupted around me. Screams echoed through the darkness, villagers fleeing blindly, tripping and stumbling over each other in terror. It was as if the very earth had cracked open, unleashing horrors from its blackened heart. My camera trembled uncontrollably in my hands, its lens capturing nightmare visions emerging from the void. Shadows stretched unnaturally, coalescing into monstrous figures, twisted shapes with gaping mouths, filled with countless needle-like teeth, and eyes blazing red with malice. No, this can't be happening. One by one, villagers vanished screaming into the darkness, their shrieks suddenly cut short. Each disappearance dragged a cold shiver down my spine, and soon only the echoes of their suffering remained. Panic clawed at my chest, stealing my breath as dread overtook reason. I had unleashed this evil. I had broken their forbidden taboo. Stay away! I cried uselessly at the encroaching apparitions, stumbling backward. My heart raced so fast I thought it might burst, but the monstrous shadows simply closed in, drawing strength from my fear. Dropping the camera, I turned and ran headlong into the forest. Branches whipped at my face, clawing my skin, as the darkness closed around me like a living nightmare. The trees, God, the trees were moving, twisting, groaning. Their roots burst forth to snag my feet, their limbs grasping hungrily, blocking my escape. I shrieked, frantic with desperation. Let me go! Let me go! Whispers surrounded me, cruel voices mocking, taunting, slithering through my mind like serpents. You saw us. Now you belong to us. I tore myself free, sprinting blindly through the ever-shifting maze of trees. Every turn I took revealed only more darkness, more terror. Figures lurched at the edge of my vision, shadows laughing cruelly, their fingers brushing coldly against my neck. Please, I sobbed breathlessly. Let me out. Let me go. But the darkness only laughed louder. Just as despair began to consume me entirely, they're still screaming, I choked out, tears streaking my dirt-smeared face. Oh God, they're still screaming. I knew then there would be no escape for me, bound eternally by the curse of Blackbriar, compelled forever to seek out new villages, new sacrifices, new souls to feed the hunger awakened by my forbidden curiosity. Clutching the camera tightly, I rose, stumbling slowly away from the barren ground that once was Blackbriar. Behind me, invisible shadows stirred eagerly, waiting, knowing their hunger would soon be satisfied once more. The whispers guided me forward, relentless in their command. Another moonless night approaches, and you will bring them to us. Forevermore, I would carry the darkness I unleashed, eternally bound to the ritual, the screams, and the whispers that would never, ever cease.